Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here at Star Cottage Studio in the bead room. So, yes, it's been a kind of a weird day for me. Have you ever had one of those days that kind of stops and starts and uh, nothing seems to be quite going the way it should? Well, that's today for me. Things are happening, but it's kind of like it's just not quite going in sync. So everything's a little bit off today. But, that's life. So, yeah, hopefully you all are having a great start to your week and you're having a little bit more luck with getting things going. Um, we've just had a lot of little things just go kind of slightly sideways today. Nothing that's like super bad, but also nothing that's like, you just, it's normally things kind of flow a little bit better. But anyway, so we're here now. Last week, if you didn't see, we started using the Great Bead Trade. Unfortunately, I couldn't participate the day of, and then I also missed the after party. So I kind of had my after party all on my own. So I used the kit to make some things. Um, and yeah, so one of the things that I started doing was showing you how to do a little bit of kumihimo. Um, and I got a couple of messages asking, I described how to finish it off, but I got a couple of questions asking on how to finish it off. So I thought that I would show you today. We're doing two lives today. We're doing one right now, and then we're going to do one in the evening. And you're like, what's happening? Why are you doing two? Well, right now we're going to do the finishing off of the kumihimo necklace, and then tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to show you how our kit launch for the Great Bead Extravaganza, and we're going to have a special guest, so that'll be fun. Originally I was going to do that this morning, but things didn't quite work out the way I wanted to. So I thought it might be nice to have kind of like a special event. So hopefully you will tune in for that. All the links for that, if you do miss it, will be posted in the Great Bead Extravaganza group. If you're not in the Great Bead Extravaganza group, I recommend that you check it out because it's pretty cool. I like it. We are super excited about that coming up. And yeah, so check that out. A lot of the different presenters are debuting their kits today. So it's a big kit day. Some of the presenters aren't doing kits. So if you don't see them debut a kit, don't worry, because some of the presenters don't use kits in their presentations. So that's just something to be mindful of, because sometimes people are like, where's the kit? I thought you were going to do a kit, but not everybody does a kit. So don't worry about that. All right. I see a couple of folks have tuned in. Tracy says it's Mercury retrograde. There's, excuse me, there's other planets that are in retrograde too. And I kind of feel like it's like kind of like walking through the mud, or like swimming through molasses. It's just not everything's, it's kind of just slightly off. So, anyways, we're doing our best, and that's all we can do, right? Suzanne is watching. Hey, Suzanne. Teresa is watching. Hey, Teresa. Michelle is watching. Hey, Michelle. Marianne says, I'm going to go on my TV, so no other comments. Oh, well, thanks for tuning in, Marianne. Also, thank you for donating to, I have a birthday fundraiser. My birthday is this weekend coming up. And Marianne was very kind and donated to Beads of Courage. Thank you, Marianne. William is also doing a fundraiser for me so that we can get a toilet here at Star Cottage Studio. So if you're interested in that, I know it's a weird present, but if you've been following along our journey with Star Cottage Studio, you know that plumbing has been kind of an issue here. So we're getting a fancy, or we want to get a fancy incinerator toilet. And he put up a Facebook campaign to make that happen, or help make it happen. The toilets that we're looking at are incinerator toilets, so they're super expensive compared to like a regular toilet. Um, but it will allow us not to have to get a bunch of plumbing, which is super nice, because that can be upwards of, but when everything is all said and done, it's going to be like 30,000 compared to like 3,000. So it's a cost-effective measure, at least for now. And I could go on and on about that topic, but William asked me not to talk about the poop hole anymore, so I'm not going to. All right, so have fun with that little tidbit. If you're new, you might be like, what? I thought we were going to talk about Kumihimo. And we will. We will. Hi, Norma. Hi, Cheryl. Teresa says, those were the bracelets I made first, so I have about 20 finished. Oh, good. Great. That's awesome. Other Teresa says, hi, Andrew. Hi there. Hope you're having a good start to your week. Helen's watching. Hi, Helen. Hopefully you're having a good start to your week as well. Bonnie's watching. Hey, Bonnie. And Norma says, I donated to the very important toilet. Well, thank you so much for that. We super appreciate it. I know that Cynthia and Azalea, when they come up and visit, they will also appreciate it, because right now we have an outhouse, and I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but yeah, so enjoy. So right now we have an outhouse that needs a lot of TLC, and we want to upgrade so that come winter time you're not having to trek out and through the snow, the icy tundra, to go to the restroom. And also at night when there's who knows what creeping about, it's a little bit more comforting. So yeah, little by little, right? I'm really proud of what we've accomplished here at Star Cottage Studio. My natural tendency is to be very critical of myself and my accomplishments and the things that we've been able to do. And so, of course, there's always more work to be done. And it's easy to kind of fall into the trap of just, being critical. But there's also something to be said about celebrating the small accomplishments and celebrating the little wins. And I think we've had the cottage for a little over a year now. Well, I think April is when it would have been a year. So a year and a half now at this point. And we've done a ton of work. So I'm pretty happy with the progress that we've made. Of course, there could always be more, but we're doing it as time and funds allow. And we also got a new building, which we'll debut some information about that pretty soon coming up. So keep an eye peeled for that because it's pretty exciting. We're super happy about it. And 2023 is going to be crazy. We're just going to be busy, busy, busy little bees. But we're excited about it. All right. So I see a couple people. Bonnie says, yes, let's talk. I feel your pain. And Sylvia says, hi, Andrew. Are Cynthia and Azalea still visiting? No, they left yesterday. Azalea has her them friend over, not it's a couple hours away from where Azalea lives, and they are going to get together for their birthday. So you can't step in the way of that young love. I was like, I tried. I was like, well, what if we did this exciting fun thing? And Azalea was like, no. So they left and but we had fun. We didn't get as much done as we thought. Cynthia, she fell in one of the creeks and hurt her knee pretty bad. So we were kind of resting up and taking things little by little and, not overextending ourselves to the point where we were disasperated. So, yeah, we didn't get as much done, but we did talk about a lot of different plans, and we have a lot of things that we're working on that we hope people will enjoy. Teresa says, y'all have accomplished a lot. Be proud of what you have accomplished. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I'm just naturally, I always want to do better, and I'm very ambitious when it comes to what I want to do. And, I think it's good that there's two of us. Me, I'm much more ambitious and I'm much more visionary in the sense that I think of things far off into the future and kind of try to plan on how to get there. William is much more pragmatic and likes to do things kind of a little bit more grounded in reality, which is nice because if it's up to me, we probably would have gone bankrupt a long time ago. So it's good that we have two parts of our brains and can do it because otherwise, one without the other just doesn't work as well. So yeah, we've done a lot. There's still always more to do. I think our next immediate project will be to change up the back room. Somebody tried to call, so that's super great. Anyway, so hopefully y'all can still see me. But anyway, so our next immediate project will probably be to do the back room at the shop at Allegory Gallery. We've been wanting to do it for a while now, and we just have been getting delayed and pushed back, and we've gotten most of everything kind of squared away. We moved the shipping department here to Star Cottage Studio, so that was a big thing. But now we just have to move things around and get them set up over there. So that's a kind of a big project. So it's kind of daunting when you think about it. And it's not necessarily the scale of the project because there's a lot of bigger projects that we've tackled, like buying a new building, but it's just a lot of like fiddly things. So anyways, that's something that we're going to work on soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Pam's watching. Hey, Pam. Bonnie says, oh no, I hope she's okay. Yeah, she's doing a lot better. She's been resting and taking care of it and using all kinds of creams and ointments and stuff. So I think she's feeling better. She told me she's feeling better today, so that's good. And it's healing surprisingly quick, so that's good. But I don't know. When your equilibrium is thrown off, it always, it's one of those things where just a little thing can kind of mess up your energetic flow. And I kind of feel like that's what happened. Like, just everything's just a little bit off lately. And so it's not flowing quite as smoothly as normal. So, anyways, Michelle says, Andrew, I really wanted to know about a book, Beads to Boxes is a good one to purchase. I don't really know that book, so I'll have to look. I might have it, I may not, but I'll look into it and let you know what I think. So I'll keep that in mind. Do you know who it's by? Because I don't know off the top of my head, but I might have it. I have a lot of books. Some of them I have read, and then some of them I just skim. But that one's not popping to the top of my head, so I'll let you know if it's something that I can get behind. But anyway, so let's do this. Let's flip this camera around and get started. I left my Loctite at the shop, so I don't have Loctite here. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of improvisation, and we're going to have to just use our power of imagination for a little bit. But yeah, it won't be too bad. All right, let's turn the camera around. You're going to see the ceiling. You're going to see the ceiling for a second. And then, yeah, we'll flip the camera. All right. So if you saw the last week's live with me, I don't know what day it was that we did it. I showed how to start the Kumihimo, and we had the Great Bead Trade, and we put in some goodies for that and participated. If you saw that, William and Cynthia did a presentation, and that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling well that day, so they had to take the reins for that. And then Sarah and some of them had an after party, and unfortunately, I missed that too. So I had an after party, and it was just a party of one, I guess. And we made some things, and I started this Kumihimo braid. So if you don't know how to get that started, I walk you through step by step. You can watch all of our videos that we do live, available on replay. There's a lot of good ones that we had recently. We just had a trunk show with Hannah Rossner and Sean Tucker of Good River Gallery. If you didn't get a chance to see that, I definitely 100% recommend that you check it out. Since we took a break, we were recovering from being sick. We were off for about 2 weeks, and that kind of threw off our algorithm. So people were saying they weren't getting notifications and all kinds of stuff. So we've been back for a week now, and hopefully that will kind of remedy some of that. Back behind what people can see and what they're not seeing. Our numbers have dropped dramatically. So I don't know if it's just the time of year or if people are tired of seeing us or they're tired of the content, but our numbers have dropped significantly when we do the lives. So yeah. So anyway, if you didn't get a chance to see that trunk show, definitely check it out. Only a couple people got things, so there's still a lot of lovely, delightful things available. And if you're like, oh, I don't have the patience to watch one more video, you can always check out our timeline on Facebook. That's Allegory Gallery, the Facebook page for Allegory Gallery. And William did he took pictures and listed everything there that was left over and wasn't claimed the first round. So you can go through those pictures rather quickly and see them there. So that's an option if you're like, oh, not another video, another one. So yeah, it was, I think, a beautiful show. Lots of fun, creative Halloween goodies and autumn themed things. So check it out if you didn't do it already. It's a good one. And then yesterday, William did his favorite things from around the store, a lot of autumn inspired goodness. So that was a lot of fun to see that. Sorry about that. I always love to see what William gravitates towards because it's always slightly different than what I pick. So it's always interesting to me, at least, seeing those kinds of differences. All right, um, so here is the finished Kumahimo braid. What I'm going to do is when you finish a Kumahimo braid, it's a little bit tight, and I've kind of pre-stretched this out, but you can see closer to this end, it's a lot thicker than down here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of pull it like so. And what this is doing is it's stretching it out and making it a little bit thinner than, when you wear it, some of the gravity will naturally want to stretch out. So if you're doing stuff like for a bracelet, it's super important to pre-stretch it. Otherwise, it's going to stretch on your wrists and it's going to be like super, super long and fall off maybe. The other thing is with this eyelash yarn, what I like to do is run my fingers over it. And that way, if it was trapped underneath the other yarn, that velvet ribbon kind of stuff, it will kind of pop out a little bit. So you'll get a little bit more of that texture as opposed to it being gently kind of tucked in there through the kumihimo. Now, if you're like, what the heck is kumihimo? It's an ancient Japanese knot braiding technique. I showed just a very basic, simple working with 8 strands, as you can see here. And yeah, so I showed how to do that. And now today we're going to show how to finish this off. All right. Now there's lots of ways to finish these off. And depending on who you reference, they will have their own unique and individual way of finishing it off. So if you like their technique better, definitely go and do that. This is the way I finish mine off. So if that is different than something else that you've seen on the internet or taken a class, that's 100% completely fine. Everybody does things differently, just so you know. I know you all know that already, but I like to say it because sometimes people are like, well, Andrew said to do it like this. And then I'm like, I get an email and they're like, how come you telling people to do this? They told me that my way is garbage and your way is the way, and it causes internet fights. And I don't really have that in my brain hole to take care of that. So just know everybody does things differently, and that's fine. If one technique works better for you than another, use that technique or try both and see which one. All right, I've got a couple um folks watching. Harry's watching. Hi, Harry. Michelle says, I like using Eslon while making kumihimo. Yeah, that makes a thinner, more compact cord. So depending on what you use for your materials, it's kind of like it's like making soup. It's all kind of roughly the same steps and process, but depending on what ingredients you put into it, it will drastically change the outcome. So with this, I use the fibers that Kay from Stars class put in. I augmented it with a couple of my own organza ribbons that I have around the cottage, but for the most part, they are all from those. We also, if you want, if you're curious, we do sell these fiber cards at Allegory Gallery. And they are fun. They come in a rainbow of different colors and textures and yarns. And the story behind that, why I started making those, is I went to the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival once, and I dabble with fiber arts, but I am definitely not an adept person at it. I just went because it was fun to go. And I bought a bunch of skeins of things that I really liked, but I bought like one skein of each. So if you're a real fiber artist, you know that that's not always the best way of doing things, especially if you're going to do bigger projects. Now, for small stuff, it's fine, but for big things, you need, a couple of skeins. And sometimes you want to get the same dye lots or the same kind of fibers, because otherwise you'll never be able to match it completely or it's really a challenge to sometimes track down things that happen. So, they like with a lot of different artists, especially small cottage industries like the fiber industry, you can get something and it's hand dyed, and you may only be able to get that once. And if you wait, the dye pot may be slightly different, and you're gonna have an unintentional ombre or whatever. So, anyways, I ended up with all these random skeins of fibers that I thought were really cool, but not super practical. So we made up these cards, and they're super fun. They've got a little bit of everything, or a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they're really great for kind of bohemian designs where you need a little bit of texture through fibers, but also if you are doing something like kumihimo where you're going to be braiding it with other things. So check those out. Those are available online and in the physical store. That's allegorygallery.com. You can check those out. We also have a whole card display of these in the back room. So if you're local and you want to check those out, please do, because they're really fun. You can take them out of the bags and touch them if you want, because sometimes the textures are a little bit different, and you may want to be able to like feel the different fibers. So, anyways, you can't really do that online because we haven't perfected that scratch and sniff, smell-o-vision, touch-o-vision thing yet. But we have done videos in the past on them. We just did one on making a little sheep. And yeah, if you want to check out that video, you'll have to scroll back through. I think it was last month that we did that video. Anyways. So Harry says, I got my kumihimo disc today. Oh, fun. Michelle says, also rat tail. Michelle says, I have a round and square disc. Yeah, depending on the discs, you can do all different kinds of patterns. You can weave them flat. You can make cording that's more like a band. So you just have to experiment, and there's lots of different books and videos on how to take this to the next step. Bonnie says, I will watch the replay on this. It's unusually cool. Harry says, those look like fibers I use to weave on looms. Oh, good. So if you have any extra left over, this is a great project for using up those kinds of odds and ends. You have to have them a length enough that when you weave it, it will produce enough usable cord, of course. But like if you have like random pieces, you'd be surprised how far it will go. All right. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna show you this end. This is the end that we have. I'm going to take some of this 22 gauge soft flex craft wire and pull off some of that. Now, it doesn't have to be this particular brand. It doesn't even have to be this particular gauge. It's just what I have on hand. It also came in the kit, that Great Bead Extravaganza Bead Trade kit. So that's super handy. And I'm going to need 2 lengths of this. It doesn't matter super how long they are. I'm going to say about 2 inches or so. And yeah, I'm going to bend this in half like so, and it's going to make a little U. And I'm going to insert my fiber into the U, and then I'm going to cross over my wires. So they're like this. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist it like a bread tie. All right. And then I'm going to get my pliers out and twist it even more so that it's super tight. Now you do have to be careful, because sometimes when you're doing this, you're work hardening the metal. And if you work hard on it too much, I'm going to do it too much, and then you'll see what happens. It will just break off. And you don't want that to happen. So then if you do over tighten it, then you will have to cut the wire off and do it again, which is not the end of the world. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do it again. It's just when you are going to come up and doing the other part of this process, sometimes it's nice to be able to remove the wire. Now, the tricky part of that is to remove this without cutting that wire that you already put in place. So I'm going to show you what to do again. So take that little piece of wire, fold it over, snug that up right to that knot where you're at, and then cross that over. And so you've got those little bunny rabbit ears like so. And then we're going to twist it like a bread tie. And then I'm using bent nose pliers because I can get really close down there. And I'm just going to twist it some more and get it nice and kind of snug in there. Not too much, otherwise you're going to have a problem like last time. And then I'm going to take this off. So basically what this is doing is it's compressing down the fibers so that when you have this end here, it's not going to fray apart and come apart, and then you have to place, when it comes apart, it will, the fibers will just kind of unspool. So this will help hold it and compress it down. And I'm just going to trim off some of the excess fibers. All right, so I've got this end. And in theory, I have scissors around here, but I don't know where they are. So I'm just going to use my my cutters and trim, give this a little bit of a haircut. Let me see if I can get it, because it'll be a cleaner look. Now, one thing that people, if you're using a synthetic fiber, sometimes you can get a lighter and hit the end of this, and that will kind of cauterize the wound, so to speak, and get that nice and fused together. If you have natural fibers or you're working with a fiber you don't know, this may be your best solution. And we're going to do a little bit of time lapse on this. So I've got some glue. This is wood glue. I like to use Elmer's white glue for this, but I couldn't find it. So I'm using this wood glue, and it basically is the same. So you just twist this, or poke it up, open it up, and you squeeze out a little bit of this glue. You don't need a ton. And so I close that up, and I'm going to scrape that off, if you can see that. And that way it keeps the hole from getting plugged up. And then you just want to take this and dab this in here like so. You want to keep some of the fibers, any kind of stray fibers, out of it, you know, because this is using an eyelash yarn. So sometimes the things can kind of go everywhere. But I've got this glue, and if you're really concerned about it, you can take the glue and kind of press it in and smear it in really good, like so. If you want to really get that to get really impregnated with the glue, you can do that. Just make sure you wipe off your fingers so that you don't, when you're touching this part, you don't accidentally end up with glue boogers. I'm going to add a little bit more on this side, and then I'm going to get a heat gun to kind of speed this along. Normally, I would just let it do its thing, have it off to its side somewhere, and let it dry naturally. But because we are doing this live, I thought it would be good to kind of accelerate the process. That way we can kind of do it in real time. Now, if you do use a heat gun, it's going to make the glue do some funky things, which is fine. You just kind of have to make sure to remember that it's hot or it will get hot. And you can also see how the heat gun actually melted some of the eyelash yarn, so it got that kind of out of the way. All right, it's still kind of flexible, but it's mostly sealed up, so you can take this apart. I'm just going to wait and put this off to the side, actually. But there you go. I see June is watching. Hey, June. So one of the things that I talked about is using bullet casings for the ends, so you can have kind of a mixed media look. They sell tons of different end caps for Kumihimo. You just kind of have to search Kumihimo end caps. Basically anything that has a large enough diameter that you can insert your end, you can use. You can also use ribbon ends. There's all different ways that you can finish this off. I thought, since I mentioned using the bullet casing, the spent bullet casing, make sure that it's not an active bullet, because then you're going to have some not good times. So anyways, my friend Lynn Suprock, she does a lot of mixed media pieces where she glued different crystals in and stuff. So she gave me some bullet casings. So I have a bunch of these floating around the studio. So what I did is, if you get a bullet casing, it's not going to have a hole in there. So I drilled a hole using my Fordham. And you kind of have to be careful, make sure that your drill bit is designed for metal and that it is well lubricated, and that you kind of go slow. The temptation always is to go fast. Now there is a little divot in the end. You normally, if you don't have a divot in the end, you take a center punch and you can punch it, and that will keep the bit from skittering around. And so I just took that and zip and pushed it through, and I created a hole in my bullet casing. So the next thing we're going to do is, I have a head pin right here. Now, the tricky part about this is that depending on the size of your hole and your head pin, you may not need to do this step, but I like to do it because there's nothing more frustrating than doing all of this work and getting all the way up to this step, and then you do it and then you end up working it just a little bit and the head pin falls out and you have everything glued up and it's impossible to get it, it's nearly impossible to put something back through. So then you have to like cut off the end and pull it out, and it's a big pain in the behind. So I just like to do this one little simple step that I'm going to show you right now. And that is a lovely way to prevent that from happening. So you just need to get a bead. I have all these leftover beads from the bead mix, and you want to find a bead that is larger than the hole that you're working with. So it has to be larger than this hole. I like to use rondelles if I can, because the rondelles are nice, because then you don't end up taking up a whole lot of room inside of your bullet casing. Now, if you take up a little bit more extra, it's not going to be the end of the world because this is such a large ending. But yeah, so I'm just going to get, since I have it here, I'm just going to put this size 8 seed bead on there. And you want to get a head pin that has a long enough tail that you can easily cajole this into your opening. Because if you have a little shorty head pin, it can sometimes be problematic. So just make sure that it doesn't pull through, and there you go. All right, the next thing that we're going to need is some round nose pliers. And I'm going to take this round nose and I'm going to create a wire wrap loop. Now, depending on your wire wrapping and your particular style, you may want to do it cleaner. I like a messy wrap. And since this is kind of a funky fiber kind of piece, I like to have that messy wrap. So I'm just going to take this and wrap it around several times. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going kind of flush to the surface of this bullet casing so that there isn't a lot of wobble. All right. You don't want a ton of wobble when it comes to this because that will create a weak spot in your design, and you don't want there to be any weak spot. Now, before I get to the very tippy tip end, I'm just going to curve this in. I've shown this trick a couple of times, probably, and by a couple of times, I mean a couple hundred times. And that way, when you're just tucking that in, it just naturally hugs in there and you don't have to worry about it. All right, now here you have it. This is your finished cap. Now, I think this is pretty fun. This is a good way to make tassels also if you need to have if you want to use this as this bullet casing as a tassel end, you can definitely use that for that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. I've seen where people have put on like StazOn ink and put patterns like that and etch these. I've seen where people have taken and done mark making on this and antique them. And there's a lot of different things that you can do to decorate this if you think this is too plain or you want this to be, you know, more decorative. Now, if you are like, oh, that's too long, this is too long of a end, and you'll be like, I don't want it to be that long. You can always put this, take a file and go into your bench pin and create a little groove. Like normally a bench pin kind of looks like this. And then you put a little groove there so it can sit there. And then you just take your jeweler's saw and cut it down. And you can cut this down to any size you want. But you do want to make sure that you have enough coverage that it's going to be that you can put the end of your kumihimo braid in there. All right. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you want to be like super duper, you want this to never come apart, you can always take a bit that has like a stone setting bit. It's called a setting bit. You can use a heart burr, anything that's kind of got that kind of disc shape at the end that's made from metal, and insert that and go around and just you'd take that and you'd insert the end like so and go zip, 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 and it will scratch up the inside of the surface. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if you do, what that's going to do is it's going to create a tooth, and then whenever you glue this in, it will it will have something to grip onto. All right. Now, this is the part where we're going to have to use our imaginations a little bit. Because I don't have my regular Loctite glue. I like to use the Loctite gel super glue because when it dries very firm and it doesn't have a lot of give to it. Some of the other ones, they don't necessarily bond the way that Loctite super glue does. It's a gel super glue, so it doesn't run everywhere. I've seen people use regular super glue, and it just is a mess, and it gets all over your fingers. The Loctite gel super glue is what I prefer. So we're going to pretend that this is a Loctite gel super glue. I'm going to squeeze some in there, and I'm going to put this off to the side for a second. And you can either take this apart like a bread tie, or you can trim it relatively flush like so. And then once this has a super glue in, you would insert this. If you want to trim this, you can trim this now. So if this is like really kind of like weird shaped and has like a lot of pokies in there, you can give it a little haircut and then insert this in there and then let that cure for the full time. So let that dry and make sure that it gets a nice adhesion to the side, and then you can have this be your cordon. All right. Now, this is actually, when I checked this originally, it filled the cavity. But I noticed that since I stretched it out, it doesn't fit as well as it did before. Now, a trick about that, if you want to get that to be really to touch the sides, because you can see there's a gap in between, is you can take something like Eslon or wax Irish linen. And let me see if I've got some around here somewhere. I don't have anything within, let's see. Let's pretend. So this is a string that I cut off of some beads. So if you have wax Irish linen, you can just take it and make a slip knot. So you fold this over and you create a little knot by folding it over and then taking this little, this end here and pulling it up through that loop. And then that will give you a slip knot. And a slip knot is super handy if you need an adjustable kind of loop. So slip that on there and then tighten it down. And if you're using like wax Irish linen, it's going to be much more bulky. And then you kind of do like a ghetto macrame where you make a loop and you go in here like so, and you pull that in there. And basically, this is just making that end a little bit thicker. And you're trying to create that bulk so that you can, so that when you put it into that bullet casing, it's not going to take up a bunch of room. All right. So you make that little P, and then you stick it through that loop in the P. That sounds gross, but anyways, you know what I mean. Maybe, and then you just keep doing that until you get kind of a bulkier end. And this is good also if you use just eyelash yarn and you have like a ton of fibers like in every direction and you want to tame it down a little bit, then that's good too. And then so when you get that in there, that's going to take up a little bit of that space, kind of mess that up. But, and this is basically just wrapping the end of this kumihimo so that it will have some bulk. And then you just tie it off. And then you can, if you do it enough times, it will fill up this size and will fill that cavity in. If you have any stray cords like this, once you glue it in, then just go and trim those excess cords. And then that way you don't have to worry about it coming undone while you're working with it. It will just be glued in there. All right. So that's how you finish right off. If you're going to do it like this, if you have your other end, just take your piece off from the loom or from the disc, and see how these all want to unwind here. This little beautiful thing. You can just wire that off. And actually, if you have leftovers like we do now, let's just do a little quick tassel action. How about that? So let's take some of this little side thing that we've got, and we're gonna need 2 of these. And you bend it over, making a U. And it goes pretty quick once you get it kind of done. I know that when, ooh, I got that in the glue, y'all. Don't do that. And the reason why I'm doing 2 is that so when I cut this off, it will want to do this natural. It will want to be, it won't go everywhere. So I'm kind of sealing up the wound, so to speak. That doesn't sound appetizing, but that's basically the best way I can describe that. And then you just cut this off. And that way your end is a little bit more finished. And that's not going to cut it nothing. So you want to have like really sharp scissors, or if you're working with wire, because you can kumihimo with wire, you can, I'll set this off to the side. And that's, if you know, that'll be that when it's ready. But I've got this end here with all the extra fibers. And so we'll just repeat the same thing with the glue. Insert this up into the bullet casing. Once we have this done, trim that off. And then you can trim this and have a little tassel with all these fun mix of fibers. Or the other option is to fold this over. You have to find the ends. Like this one's not super long, so just keep that in mind and fold it over like so and wrap it again with the wire. Let me pull off a little piece of this. So, oop, that flicked over there. Don't do that. It's hard to hold this with one hand. This is the thing where if you get this set up beforehand, it's a way easier. But I wasn't anticipating showing this, so I didn't get it set up. But anyway, so just get this ready. Fold it over like so. Put this up through here. So you're getting both kind of bundles. And then you're going to twist this around just like we did earlier. If you want to do this a little bit more, do it tighter or be careful of the other threads, you can definitely do that. Again, I like the bent nose pliers because you can get down in there and make sure that it's super tight. And then whenever you get, you glue your ends. Once you glue your ends, then you find your loops like so, and then you'll trim them. And this can be the last thing you do is for making this kind of mixed fiber tassel is find anywhere of these loops and trim it. And then kind of comb out all the excess and trim it. And then when you have this, and I'm skipping some steps. Normally I would glue this in and let that all glue or let the glue dry. But we've got stuff to do and then we've got to get ready for the live later. So you would just take this and glue this up in there And that way you have kind of a full tassel. And anywhere there's a loop, like there's a loop still, you would just cut this. And that kind of looks a little bit scraggledy. So you just kind of have to pick and choose how many fibers you like. If you like it to be more bushy like this, you can also go back in and use sharp scissors and give it a haircut so that it doesn't have that kind of visual bulk. But that's a fun way to incorporate that as well. If you want to have kind of a mixed fiber tassel with a bullet casing. So if you wanted to, you could have this and then just imagine that this is finished up, and then you could have it where you can slide this on to your cord like so, and you can have it be like this, or do something beaded. So there's a lot of different options. So I've got a couple comments. Pam says, I have 2 long ones I just threw out this morning. Bonnie says, my dad had some old bullets in a box. They are the full bullets. Are they dangerous to work with? Yes, they are very dangerous to work with. It is an explosive. So if the bullets are not spent, do not hit them with hammers or try to get them off. Just go on the eBay and get some spent ones, or go off. If you have a gun, then go and shoot them off or something. But the other technique of getting a hole in this end is to take a nail and a hammer and go through this. But if the bullet is full, do not hit it with a hammer or try to drill it. That is a way for it to explode in your hands, and then you have the bad times, okay? So don't do that, because that's a trip to the emergency room, and I don't want anybody to lose any fingers and get shrapnel to the face, and then be like, I got disfigured because I wanted to make this tassel on. Don't use them. There's plenty of places where you can get spent bullet casing. Go to a shooting range. Some people will refill the bullet casings. So you can order these already empty. Just be careful, y'all. I don't want anybody to get hurt, all right? So if they're full, don't use them. Amanda says, hello, everyone. I am late. I did not get a notification this time. See, that's kind of weird. Sometimes people are getting them and sometimes people are not. So hopefully, as we keep doing the lives, we're going to have another live at 9 o'clock tonight, which is going to be a kit debut. So make sure to join us for that. Generally speaking, we try to start right on time, but sometimes give it like 5 to 10 minutes. Because sometimes, like today, I ran into one of our neighbors, and they told me that one of our other neighbors had passed away the previous day. So that's why I was a little bit late today. So our heart goes out to our neighbors and their loved ones. Patty, she lost her battle to cancer, which is super sad. And at least she can be at rest and at peace and not in pain anymore. So our hearts go out to them. But anyway, so sometimes we start right on time, and sometimes we're just a little bit late. So bear with us. If you have your notifications set, with YouTube, there's a little bell, and you can click that little bell, and it can set the notification. If you've already previously clicked the bell and you click it again, you are unsubscribing from our notifications. So just be sure that your notifications are set to be turned on. Because I've had some people say, oh, I went and did it, and then I never got a notification again. And then I said, well, you basically turned it off. So make sure that your bell has the notifications turned on. And then on Facebook, you just have to like and follow the Allegory Gallery page, and that's probably the best place that you can do that, because that's where we do most of our lives, is here on Facebook, but also on YouTube. So if you subscribe and like and follow, then that's the best way to make sure that you see them as they come out. Sharon says, "Hi, Andrew. Hope you're having a good day." I'm doing okay. It's just been a kind of a weird day, but nothing that a little perseverance can't get us through. Bonnie said, "That's super cool." And okay, thanks. Yeah, Bonnie, watch your fingers. I don't want you to get them blown off. So Norma says, "I turned my YouTube notifications off and back on today, and this time it worked." Oh, good. So that seems to be the solution. All right, so that's just one way to finish off this Kumihimo bracelet. We also had a little side bonus project of making one of these fiber tassels. I think that's really fun. I could see it easily if you had, I have these little glass head beads somewhere. Hold on just one second. I moved some stuff around, so that's kind of why I can't find everything. Kind of like the story for today. Everything's a little bit off today. Um, all right, I found something. So I have these Indonesian glass head beads. I can't find them, but it popped into my mind that I had some alternatives. So I found this Fine Pewter Green Girl Studios Medusa head. Um, and that would be super cute if you strung this, instead of making the wire wrap loop here, string this like so, and you could have a little head and a little dance. You could put little arms. Do you think that's cute or not? Cute or not? A little dress. Maybe if it was a shorter one, but you could make a little art doll that way. Or if you wanted to get experimental, have a zombie head. Doing maybe a little. I don't know about that. Good for Halloween, maybe, but those are kind of cute. She has some other different head beads that would be great for this, so check those out. Um, Michelle says, "I told my husband to save his casings after shooting. He says, 'You are crazy, woman. Do you know how hard it is to do that?' I don't know. Just go." Um, I had a friend and they lived by a shooting range and they were friends with the owners, and they says, "Hey, can I get some of the casings?" And they gave her like bags and bags of them. You can buy them also. If you go on eBay or Etsy, you can get stacks of them. I bought a collection from a mixed media artist, and I have a bag somewhere. But this is a cool way that you can make a little art doll if you wanted to have that little fringy bit be like a skirt, I guess. So there's options. You can really use this and make it versatile. If you wanted to, if you're very careful and you put a little center punch notch, you could drill through this way and then kind of make a little body, or wire the arms on from up here so you could have a little body. That could be fun. So lots of different options. Teresa says, so cute. Amanda says, I love the Medusa head. June says, cool idea. Shorter casing may be better though. Um, well, June, if you want to have this be shorter, all you have to do is cut it with a jeweler's saw. I would use a number 2 blade on that. And it would go right through like butter. And you could have a shorter casing. I have Milagros, but I also have these little hands and stuff. These are vintage little charms, and you could put them like so. Maybe someday I'll do this project. So lots of little different ideas. Pam says, I'm not fond of the heads. Well, it's just up to you what you want to do. You can leave it plain, but if you wanted to make it more decorative, you could definitely use a bead or whatever. But if you do like to have mixed media art dolls, that could be one way to do that. But it's up to you. Amanda says, can you use a metal hole punch? In theory, you can. In actuality, it's actually pretty tricky. Now, the reason why it's tricky is because you can't get the jaws. Like if you had one that had super long jaws that were enough to go through the casing, then you could. But otherwise, there's no way, like a hole puncher that's on like a pliers, there's nowhere to get in there. So unfortunately, there's no way to really do that with one that has jaws. Now, if you have one, I don't know, that would be like you could put it up there, but it would only be over here to do the hole on the side. You wouldn't be able to do that. Now, if you wanted to be able to put a hole in through the top, you would get a nail and put that over your nail over the top like this and hit it with a hammer and then pull the nail out, and it would leave a hole in there for you. And that's kind of like the ghetto way of doing it, but that's one way of getting a hole in there. It may not be perfect, and depending on what kind of nail you use, you may have to be, you might have to hit it a couple times. If you use a nail like this, it's way too big and your hole would be massive. So that trick of using a stop bead would be good, but I would just use a smaller nail. Okay. June says, very cool, Andrew. Teresa says, I've used wooden beads and painted a face on. You could definitely do that. Bonnie says, would be fun for Mardi Gras. Yeah, could be fun. Cheryl says, love it. I'm all for unique and out of the box. Oh, fun. All right, so I'm going to flip this around. Hello, everyone. So today we kind of learned to finish off our kumihimo bracelet or necklace. This will be, you could make it as a choker. It's really tight though. I'm going to back up. So I would say put some chain maybe, or if I wanted to, I could put some of this cool pipe chain, or I can't remember what Neely calls it, but this is from the Silver Silk. And you could have this be like, figure out a looping system where you could put this on. I don't know. I think it would be cool beaded. since I have beads, and it's the bead trade. So just make sure to glue that in, let the glue set, and you'll have an end cap for your kumihimo project. Or with your leftovers, you can make a fun fiber tassel like so. And that fiber tassel you can use for all kinds of things, including but not limited to art dolls. And you just have to brush out your fibers so they're not all kinds of wibbledy wobbledy. But I think that could be fun, especially if you did like a rainbow. I think that could be super cool. Now, if you were going to do if you weren't going to reuse the end, what you would do is you would take the fibers, lay them out, and then find the middle and use that little loop, that U shape, and create the top there. But since we reused the end of our kumihimo braid, that's what I did, is I folded it over and created it like that. So you know what I mean? There's an easier way to do this, but it's not going to necessarily it's not going to reuse those fibers. So this is a good way so that these little bits don't end up in the garbage and they kind of end up in a project instead. So lots of different options, and I hope you will enjoy using kumihimo, using up all those fibers, and making tassels, I guess. So I did want to remind you all that we're going to be going live at 9 o'clock and doing a kit launch then for the Great Bead Extravaganza Fall Fest, which is coming up soon. The Fall Fest is coming up on October 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So make sure you have that marked on your calendar, the Great Bead Extravaganza. That's going to be all streamed out of the Great Bead Extravaganza page, and we're one of the presenters and organizers. So hopefully you all will enjoy that. It's a really fun weekend, lots of really diverse and unique approaches, and we'll be adding our kit sometime tonight after our debut. So hopefully we'll see you then. For now, I'm going to go. See ya.